Thank you, Dr. Koch, for that excellent presentation about the addiction workforce. Let me remind the viewing audience once again that you can submit a question by email by recoverymonth.moses@gmail.com. Once again, recoverymonth.moses@gmail.com. Now, welcome back to the first webcast of the Illinois Department of Human Services Division of Alcoholism and Substance Abuse, celebrating Recovery Month. This segment of the program focuses on the addiction workforce, Voices for the Field. Prior to the break, we heard expert testimony about the field itself. Now we're going to turn our attention to those considering a career in the addiction workforce. Anthony Ely is an instructor in the applied sciences area, specifically addiction studies and criminal justice at Harold Washington College. He will give an overview of why people consider joining the addiction workforce. Following his presentation, he will introduce several students who are preparing for careers in the field.
In this segment, I'm going to respond to the question, why people consider joining the addictions treatment workforce. In addition, I'll respond to what they must understand. If you had an opportunity to witness the last speaker in the previous segment, he stressed the need for ongoing training and education, and I am here to pick up that mantle and hopefully carry it forward. When the question is asked, the most common response is a desire to help and or give back. But as I've talked to students over the past few semesters, they seem to break out in three distinct groups. The first group of students typically have not been impacted by drugs or alcohol, or so they say, and they are coming to us out of some sense of altruism. They want to make a contribution to society, and specifically they want to address this problem. The second group of students are either directly or indirectly impacted by the use of drugs and alcohol, and in some cases they want to follow in the footsteps of their counselor and try to also deliver good service. But unfortunately, within that group, there are those who've had a disappointing experience and essentially felt that they did not receive the kind of adequate support they needed and feel that they now can do a better job. So we welcome them. The last group tends to come to us from those institutions where they have earned a baccalaureate degree, but it is not related to the behavioral sciences. And they feel that counseling is easy, that all you've got to do is tell a person what they shouldn't do, and that should solve the problem. But as the professionals who will speak later will tell you, that is not the simple solution. No matter their motivation, all groups must understand that they are entering a helping profession, which means the person themselves, their existence, their being, is going to play a key role in bringing about positive change, which means they must be physically and psychologically suited for the clinical challenges that they will face, because there are no simple answers. They must make a commitment to self-evaluation as well as ongoing training and self-renewal. When we talk about a commitment to self-evaluation, it's about bias recognition. For it is those biases that I have found that tend to get in the way of other people's recovery. When I speak to students about what it takes at its core to do this work, and that's the way I've been trained, to think of it as work. This is something that we have to do, and it's important, so it's about work. There are three basic building blocks. The first is life experiences, the second, personal dynamics, and the third, education and training. When I talk about life experiences, it has nothing to do with drugs and alcohol. It has to do with life experiences across the lifespan. How have you responded to challenges as an adolescent, as a young adult, as an elderly person? Your academic setbacks, your financial faults, the disappointment that you experience in general, your 40th birthday. What does that look like for you? The personal dynamics. What is it about you that predisposes you to helping others? What innate abilities do you possess? Do you have that innate ability to listen to others without interjecting what you think? The innate ability to listen not only with the ear, but also with the eye, to observe the body language that is accompanying their speech, to truly understand what it is that they're trying to communicate to you. The third area, my favorite, education and training. Here in Illinois, the Illinois Alcohol and Other Drug Abuse Professional Certification Association, IODAPCA, IAODAPCA.org, is the body that accredits programs and certifies counselors to work in the field. So in conjunction with those DASA licensed programs, and I stress those DASA licensed programs, we as a triad, a partnership, are looking to build a workforce that indeed can respond to today's clinical challenges, much as was pointed out in the last segment. When we talk about the skill sets, speaking with our students, I tend to try to keep things simple, as was referred to earlier. I talk about two types of skill sets: technical skills and conceptual skills. Those technical skills are the ones that are going to keep you employed on a day-to-day basis. It's going to keep you in tune with what the employer that is paying you is asking you to do. The ability to conduct interviews, to record case notes, report writing, knowledge of theory and techniques and interventions, but also, as the 21st century has come upon us, to be able to execute those functions through computer-based software. There's also the idea of understanding problem-solving, decision-making, and goal-setting. There are some technical steps that we walk through. And unfortunately, those steps are stressed in treatment plans as opposed to the concept of the problems that people actually face. So we want to be able to have people understand the difference between the steps I go through to solve problems and the concepts that are needed to make resolution. Conceptual skills, those are a lot deeper. And those are the ones that I cannot actually teach, that I rely on those certified professionals by IODAPCA and other agencies working in those DASA licensed programs to pick up the ball after I have gotten it rolling. Conceptual skills will allow us to respond to the ambiguity and the complexity in thoughts that clients bring into treatment. It will provide us the ability to have a more deep and meaningful understanding of how they're thinking and the work before us. What will that do? It will position us well to create positive therapeutic alliances between the counselor, client, and program. It will provide a context for understanding the client's life experience above and beyond your own. It will position you well to explore the cognitive dynamics that are in play, allowing you to then call on those technical skills that are related to things such as reframing and thought stopping. The last area, which is really the heart of making change, is the ability to demonstrate empathy with clients, showing them through the spoken word and the unspoken body gesture that you understand what it is that they have experienced and know you may not have all the answers, but you've got a couple of good suggestions. Lastly, modeling some sense of genuineness and congruence. As some of the recovering persons spoke earlier, they had a completely different face that they presented to the public. Now, they are more congruent, more genuine in their speech. And as a result, they have been welcomed home, and I'd have them over for dinner any day of the week. When we talk about our addiction studies program, we can talk about the success of students, the grades they get, but the reality is all we're doing is laying a template, the groundwork that is going to be followed up on by these certified professionals in DASA licensed programs. So there are three things we're trying to do. Teach basic technical skills, and we measure those, of course, through midterm examinations, final exams, research papers, essay writing, because we're interested in the content of what they say as opposed to the fact that they put some words on a paper and they stay within the margins. The second thing we want to do is instill a sense of commitment, and it begins with accountability for attending class, accountability in turning in those assignments on time. There's nothing worse than a client showing up for treatment and the counselor is not there. That is not a good feeling. The last thing we do, of course, is provide them initial exposure to the opportunity to try out conceptual skills in a 300-hour monitored field experience. Of course, we use DASA licensed programs that employ IODAPCA certified professionals. And we expect those professionals to understand that these are entry-level people. We do not want you to throw them into group the second day on the job. We want you to shepherd them through the process and encourage them along the way. For it is through that partnership that we're actually going to get some of that magnificent change that was on display in the previous segment. In conclusion, I'd like to introduce a panel of 4 students that have joined us this afternoon, 3 of whom are in the program here at Harold Washington, and the 4th is an intern from the University of Chicago. And true to form, Matt, our first speaker, is going to have to get out of here and go to class as soon as he's done. Matthew.
Thank you, Professor Ely. My name is Matthew Whitman. I'm a current student at the Harold Washington Community College. I'm in my second semester here. I'm also a self-admitted recovering IV heroin addict. I used for on and off approximately 12 years at a textbook progression from smoking cigarettes out of my father's cigarette pack to alcohol on into my drug of choice later on, which became heroin. It took me a lot of places I didn't want to go. Any goals I had and all that stuff was completely diverted. I was in incarceration. I've been to many treatment centers. And in those treatment centers, I was educated about this disease. I used that time productively as opposed to destructively and used that information and turned my life around. I attend 12-step meetings. I also attend some cognitive therapy groups. And through those, I've been able to change my life and even more so try to turn a personal relationship into drugs to a professional one and give back. As previously stated before by Dr. Cook and also Professor Ely, having a personal relationship can help benefit somebody in the professional field. You know, I'll be able to help them on a more personal level by understanding and empathizing what they have gone through. And that is my hope and my career goal, you know, in this field and being trained in this field to do so. And with that, I thank you and will pass.
Good afternoon. My name's Mike. I'm a grateful recovering alcoholic and addict. I'm currently in my first semester at Harold Washington, looking to get my certificate in addiction counseling, CADC. I do have a bachelor's in business administration from Texas Christian University. I am very proud and very honored to be able to tell my story today. It's really hard to look back sometimes. My life is very good now, but if my testimony and my story can just lift one person's bottom or bring one person into this program, that will make my life whole at this point. Who am I? I'm from a small town in Iowa. I consider myself a son of the Midwest. I had a great family. I had a great upbringing. I still do. My parents were teachers. My dad was a coach. I was an athlete in a small town. That was how life was. I went off to college. You know, you hear about the binge drinking with the college guys. That was me. It was always kind of a worrier, kind of nervous socially, and that was the lubricant. When I would meet people, it would take the edge off. So, you know, drinking kind of became my friend, and it was working for me. You know, there wasn't a social chairman election that I lost. Booze was a big part of my life at that point. As I went into the business and as I, started my career, my friends kind of grew up and moved on, had lives, went on with their families, and I kind of brought my best friend, which is alcohol, with me. The consequences started to pile up. The DUIs, the accidents, the divorce, the financial problems. Started to lose myself. The line was crossed from abuse into dependence on alcohol. The alcohol quit, then the drugs were introduced, and then I was out of control. I had opportunities to go to the best treatment centers in the country. I've went to Talbot's program in Atlanta for 4 months. I've been through Hazleton. And treatment was an event. I was told from a person I respect very much, it was an event for me. Recovery is a lifestyle. I couldn't get that straight. And I kept going on, and I knew, and through the program, I knew this thing ended at jail, institution, or death. You always hear that. But I was still so selfish that, it wasn't going to happen to me. I was going to do it my way. And, and I would pray, this has got to end, this is going to stop. So I was intervened on by the Chicago Police Department, and it was a very strong intervention. I'm here to tell you, it was tough. My road ended in Vienna Correctional Institute for 61 days, and it was hell. I lost everything. I lost not only a job, but a career, my family. I lost my envoy. I lost my home. I lost my 80-pound chow who was in the back seat. He's gone now. And it was consequences of this. It had to stop. And most of all, I lost myself. And, you know, I had nowhere to go when I got out. I had absolutely nowhere to go. And I've never been through that. I was released. I went to a recovery home called a Safe Haven on the south side. And I decided to make every day count. These people, it's a social model for recovery. I could never get to the halfway house because I was always cured when I got out of treatment. But these people taught me how to live. They saved my life. The social model is where we do life skills. We are accountable. We clean bathrooms. We are introduced and we are accountable to go to 12-step programs. We're on the street working, trying to pick up the pieces with very good help. And these people have helped me a lot. Through the process, I have really found my life experience is very strong. I mean, I've been up the mountain a couple of times professionally. I've been in the boardroom and I've been under the boardwalk. You know, I've been all the way around. But through working with people, I was looking for a program to get into. I talked to the church people, and then I found Professor Ely. I like what they're doing here. I love being back in school, and this is tying everything together with me. I can work with people. I can use my life experience and kind of bring everything full service. And, you know, I guess I kind of want to leave. I'm working now in a field where we do development for a company where we do pre-screen hiring, drug testing. And I would like to use this certificate to maybe reach some of the high-bottom alcoholics or the alcoholics that are in prison in their $1 million condo across the street and do interventions through that sort of outwork and outreach. And once again, thank you. I'm just glad to be here.
Hello, my name's Ben, and I'm a graduate student at the University of Chicago and an intern at DASA.
Hey, Ben.
I've also worked in the mental health field for the past 8 years. I first entered the field following college when I had no real experience or specific training to prepare me for the journey that I was about to embark on. But I was unsatisfied with the idea of a typical office job, and this seemed like a much more social and exciting opportunity for me. I took a shot at an entry-level position, working with adolescents in a residential setting. And I learned quickly the importance of sincerity, honesty, and integrity in working with these young men, that I was trying to help create opportunities for change and help them grow up and become adults. Over those 8 years, though, I noticed the influence and power of forces that weren't immediately noticeable to me when I began. No matter the service, clients and communities are served not only by providers, but by the systems that create the environment that allows for the providers and individuals working with clients to work together and allow for the change to be lasting and sustainable. These experiences all led me to where I am now. I returned to school to help examine how do things like management, government, economics, and policy impact the lives of clients, service providers, and communities. It seems that the same values of sincerity, honesty, and integrity still apply from this vantage point. It's of great importance that not only do I examine how best to treat individuals, but how also we as a community and state and country come together to provide services to those in need and create an environment that allows for change to occur. Whether I'm involved in direct work with clients, in a management role, or in place to impact policy, the effort that I put forth in my work is rewarding. It's hard for me to define what that means, but while I remain in my work in the service of others, there's a great reward in my work contributing to the greater good. If what I do can help someone or a group of people or a community recover from illness, grow as people, and contribute to their communities, then no matter the turmoil along the way, the difficult times, I'm grateful to be doing what I'm doing. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Janice. I'm in my second semester in addiction studies at Harold Washington College. I have been fortunate in that I have not suffered drug addiction or alcoholism, but I'm the ex-wife of an alcoholic who is now deceased. We started our life together with a lovely little home and 4 lovely children, all born very close together. We were extremely happy. We moved to the farm, which is something that he thought he always wanted to do. And I think that probably the alcoholism was there, and I had the fear of facing it, of actually saying, yes, he has a problem. I didn't want to know that. Neither did he want to know that. So as time went on, it became more and more difficult. The 4 children were getting older. They were doing different things. Their father had a problem with that. He didn't seem to think that he could deal with it like he did when the children were little, and so it was more beer and more beer, which is, he said to me one day, I can't be an alcoholic, I just drink beer. It was like, okay, I think we've got a real problem here, and I think that was when I had to face it. We did go to the minister for help. We went to the doctor for help. But this was a number of years ago. And recovery and the help for recovery wasn't like it is now, or like I hope it's going to be. Because, wow, wouldn't it have been wonderful if my children could have had their father for all of those years. I mean, after 13 years and more alcoholism than I could deal with and help that wasn't happening, I had to leave. And so when that happened, I tried to make sure, and I think I did a good job, that the children understood that their father was not a bad man, but he had a problem, he had a disease, he needed some help. And hopefully that's helped them in their lives as well. So I want to become certified in the area of addiction studies. I want to be able to work with families so that if there are those families who are going through what I went through, maybe I can be one of those people that can help.
Thank you, Anthony, for your informative presentation, and special thanks to all your students, their insight, commitment, and personal stories. At this time, I want to deviate a little from our regular schedule because we have an individual who has to make a very important engagement. At this time, I'd like to call up Mr. Rick Nance of the Division of Alcoholism and Substance Abuse to share his insight on state affairs. He's also he's the administrator for the Bureau of Management Operations of DASA. So he has to leave because he has a very important budget meeting. We want him to be there. We want him to be on time.
And I want to be on time, let me tell you. Hello. As Gadget mentioned, my name is Rick Nance. I'm with DHS with DASA, and I serve in DASA as the person that's responsible for the budgeting and the contracting and making sure that we expend the money in a way that shows that we're good stewards of services for recovery. When I was asked to come talk, it was, my background is a lot varied than some folks in this position that I have, because in 1972, I went into college as a math major, into engineering. And I got in to college, and I got into math classes, and they were, they weren't easy, but, it was like just my heart was not in it. And I had started talking with a friend of mine who was working at a hotline program, a suicide hotline program where we did volunteer work. And I volunteered, got training there, started into that, and into my second semester. Then when I started as a sophomore, I went in and changed my major, and the people at the registration office said, "You're changing from math to social work?" And I said, "Yeah." Well, what advisor do you talk to? I just thought it was a good idea. And so, and having come from 2 large families, my dad comes from a family of 16 and my mom 15, I saw the fact that alcohol and drugs were there as an ongoing part of struggle statistically within families, and also saw that a need to get into social work as a way to help fulfill my heart. in terms of that I would do something that would make a difference, something that when I died I knew that I left the world a better place than what it was when I came in. And so I started onto this journey then of beginning to get training in social work, and then worked as a mobile crisis outreach worker. My first job out of college, I was making $8,000 a year. I could in fact wear bib overalls and tennis shoes, and I had hair down to here, believe it or not. And it was an outreach job, and it really was what I wanted to do. I began to work with alcoholics and drug addicts on the streets, doing outreach, engaging people, getting them into treatment, and I went from there then to running a mobile crisis program that I moved to another job, and it was a 24-hour, 7-day-a-week job. And weekends, nights, holidays, I was on the bridges, I was out in the fields, wherever, in the people's houses, day and night, whatever. Anytime they needed a crisis worker, we'd go out with them, and Children and Family Services and police departments and hostage situations and all of those issues. We began to see the thing that continued to permeate with me was the prevalence of alcohol and drugs involved in almost in a high percentage of those problems. And so I began to work with those folks and began to then also work with people that had serious mental illness. And I set up a set of special programs where we, in fact, would take people from state facilities, and they would be able to come into these programs. And within 4 or 5 years, we were taking people that had lived in institutions for 25 and 30 years and getting them out into their own apartments and into their jobs. And I began to see and be very convinced about the fact that recovery is not a noun, it's a verb. It happens. Recovery can and does happen. One has to be committed to it. One has to buy the message. And so I began to sell that to myself, as well as convince other folks that I was working with to think of new ways, to think of other ways that you can set up independent housing, to think of doing more aggressive kind of assertive community treatment, to begin to be involved with the consumer movement and get consumers involved and clients involved and families involved. And that to make this happen, it has to become something that we as a community are committed to, that we have to be committed to helping ourselves believe in the recovery message, but also believe that's something that we have to do, that we have to move our own feet. And so I began to look at it and see, okay, as I get it, how can I use my skills? I use my mathematical skills and my math skills in my work, and computer graphic skills, but it's all centered around how do I share the message, use the numbers, use the graph, use the technical skills to help convince people that this is how recovery can and does happen, and to support and come along with us on that journey. And so that's how I begin to use my skills, and to be able to take a look then and see, okay, when we fund things or when we analyze data, when we look at stuff, the question to me and to other folks I'm around is always ongoing. How does this help people to get to recovery? How does this help people keep and maintain their recovery? And two critical questions that I think that we have to just continually ask ourselves, and just do it over and over. And I ask myself that every day for myself, and I ask that for every day for what I do in my job. Thank you.